If you're still trading time for money in an AI economy, you're not just behind, you're being replaced. How do you compete with something that works 24/7 for free? You are staring down the barrel of a permanent wage collapse. Welcome to AI Market Mint.
Turn AI into income. Turn knowledge into freedom. Your digital HQ for smart wealth creation.
Listen, the panic out there is, it's pretty loud right now.
Oh, it is absolutely palpable. I mean, every single day, my inbox is just flooded with messages from mid-career professionals, and they are waking up in cold sweats.
Yeah, realizing the old rulebook is basically worthless.
Exactly. We are talking about junior copywriters, mid-level coders, financial analysts. Take a fictional example, right? Let's call her Sarah.
Okay, let's look at Sarah.
She spent $100,000 on a university degree. She played by all the rules and everything society asked of her. And now she's sitting at her desk, just watching a localized open source model execute her entire week's workload.
In what, like a fraction of the time?
In 40 seconds. Literally 40 seconds. It is a massive identity crisis for these people.
Because their entire identity is tied to the labor.
Right, because we have systematically tied human worth to repetitive cognitive labor. We convinced an entire generation that memorization, fast typing, basic data processing that equaled permanent job security.
Which was a massive lie.
It was a foundational lie, and it is breaking in real time. People they do not know how to process the grief of their own obsolescence.
Look, I hear the panic. I do. But I want to be brutally honest here.
Go for it.
That grief, it does not pay the mortgage. The market does not care about your feelings, and it certainly does not care about your student loans.
It's a harsh reality, but yeah, the market is entirely neutral.
Completely neutral. If a machine can execute a task faster with zero errors and for a fraction of a cent in compute cost, your human labor is instantly devalued to zero.
People are definitely struggling to accept that math.
Because they're sitting around crying about fairness. Meanwhile, their corporate employers are quietly rewriting the entire operational budget for next year. And the instinct right now, the absolute worst instinct I'm seeing, is people trying to just run faster on the hamster wheel.
Oh, the hustle culture response.
Yeah.
Trying to outwork the algorithm.
Yes. People think the solution is to work harder, to log 70 hours a week instead of 50. Listen to me. You cannot outwork a server farm.
You really can't.
You cannot hustle your way past a neural network. If your job description is basically reading a document, moving that information into a spreadsheet, and sending an email about it, you are a human router.
A human router, that's a brutal way to put it, but accurate.
And routers are hardware. Hardware always gets upgraded.
The human router mentality is deeply ingrained, though. I mean, we are asking people to step out of the psychological comfort zone of being an employee.
An employee who just waits for tasks to be handed down.
Right, and step into the mindset of a capital allocator. We have to look at why everyone is acting like human routers in the first place.
Because they were trained to.
Exactly. This isn't just some sudden technological shift. This is the natural, inevitable conclusion of applying the Industrial Revolution blueprint to white-collar work.
Explain that, because people think white-collar work is somehow elevated.
Well, we built a factory line education system specifically designed to produce obedient knowledge workers. Yeah. We essentially built cognitive factories.
Hold on, I want to push back on that a bit. Calling a modern office a factory feels, I don't know, a little dramatic.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I mean, my accountant isn't exactly pulling levers on a dirty conveyor belt. How is an Excel spreadsheet or a Slack channel the same as a car assembly line?
The physical output is different, sure, but the systemic design is identical. Think about the economics of the 90s and early 2000s.
Right, peak corporate bloat.
Exactly. The entire corporate structure relied on middle managers to manually process and route information down a digital conveyor belt.
Pass the memo to the next desk.
Yes. Companies hired massive armies of junior analysts just to gather data. The value wasn't in the insight itself. The value was in the sheer physical and mental effort required to find the numbers in a scattered database.
We rewarded human friction.
Exactly. We paid people well simply because gathering and formatting information was incredibly tedious. But information routing is now practically free. The bottleneck is no longer data processing. The only way to survive now is through cognitive arbitrage.
Wait, Ollie. Cognitive arbitrage sounds technical. What does that actually mean for a normal person?
Simple. It just means profiting from the difference in how quickly people understand new information. Imagine it like buying a house in a neighborhood right before everyone else realizes a new subway station is opening.
And right now, the cognitive arbitrage opportunity is massive.
Huge. because the majority of the workforce still believes their tedious friction has intrinsic value.
They are operating in a legacy system.
A system built on the mass centralization of labor. Big corporations held all the cards because they were the only ones who could afford to hire thousands of humans to do the mundane work. Generative models decentralize that power completely.
Which brings us to why incredibly intelligent people are actively choosing to ignore this massive shift.
The denial is fascinating to watch.
It is. Let's talk about Steve. I see guys exactly like this in the industry right now. So Steve is 42 years old.
Okay. Mid-career, established.
Very established. He is a senior financial modeler at a commercial real estate firm, making about $140,000 a year. Steve is a smart guy, highly educated, but he relies on 15 years of manually linking spreadsheets.
And he probably thinks nobody else can do what he does.
Exactly. He claims he has this untouchable, mystical gut feel for the market.
I talk to Steve's every single week. What is his specific blind spot, though? What actually happens when you put the new technology right in front of him?
I actually sat down with him. I showed him a customized script. It could ingest a 100-page municipal zoning document, cross-reference it with 10 years of dense municipal tax data, and output a flawless risk model for a commercial property.
In how much time?
2 minutes. 2 minutes for what usually takes his entire team a full week.
See, I want to pause here because people hear that and assume it's just fancy autocomplete.
It's not autocomplete.
Right. But how does a language model actually do financial math? It's just predicting the next word, right?
That is the biggest misconception in the market right now. Modern language models aren't just predicting text anymore.
They are acting as reasoning engines.
Yes. Under the hood, the model acts as an orchestration agent. It holds the complex schema of that municipal document in its context window, recognizes the data requirements, and then dynamically writes a Python script in the background.
To execute the actual heavy mathematical analysis?
Exactly. It runs that code in a secure sandbox, pulls the numerical output, and formats it perfectly into a risk summary. It functions as both the underwriter and the data engineer simultaneously.
Okay, so you show Steve a system that collapses his entire week into 2 minutes. How did he react to that?
You won't believe it. He scanned the final output, found one minor formatting error in how a cell was highlighted, and triumphantly declared the entire technology useless.
You're joking.
I'm not. He actually crossed his arms and said, see, a machine doesn't have the gut feel of an experienced underwriter.
Wow.
It was pure cope. He used a microscopic, easily fixable flaw to justify ignoring a macroscopic threat to his livelihood.
He is not stupid, though. I mean, he's suffering from an identity crisis driven by the sunk cost fallacy.
Wait, Ellie, sunk cost fallacy sounds technical. What does that actually mean for a normal person?
Simple. It just means refusing to abandon a bad strategy because you've already invested time or money into it. Imagine it like forcing yourself to finish a terrible meal just because you paid for it.
And Steve is forcing himself to eat the terrible meal every single day.
Because he invested over a decade of his life into becoming a master of manual spreadsheet manipulation. He refuses to admit that this specific skill is now a cheap commodity.
It hurts the ego.
When a machine suddenly replicates your professional competence in seconds, it feels like a personal attack. He is not actually fighting the software. He is fighting his own loss of status.
But listen, status will not protect your income when the structural economics of your industry fundamentally change.
The market doesn't care about his pride.
Exactly. While Steve is aggressively defending his spreadsheets, a 24-year-old kid at his own firm is using these agents to underwrite 20 properties a day.
The volume difference is just staggering.
And the partners at the firm, they do not care about Steve's gut feel. They care about deal flow. I guarantee you Steve will be quietly managed out of that firm within 18 months.
Without a doubt. We want to talk about how to survive this. We really have to look at the brutal math of the situation.
The traditional W-2 employee is fighting a losing war on 3 distinct fronts: taxes, inflation, and the zero-marginal cost of artificial intelligence.
The W-2 path was already becoming mathematically difficult long before generative systems hit the mainstream.
It's a rigged game.
When you look at how compensation is structured, the deck is stacked heavily against the individual who only has their time to sell.
Let's run the actual numbers for people. Say you make $150,000 a year.
Okay, a solid professional salary.
On paper, sure. But first, between federal, state, and payroll taxes, you are left with roughly $100,000 in actual realized liquidity hitting your bank account.
And then you have to factor in real inflation.
Which is always higher than they admit.
Exactly. I don't mean the smoothed-out numbers published by institutions. I mean the lived cost of housing, healthcare, and education. That takes another massive chunk out of your purchasing power.
It's a silent tax.
Your 100 grand today is realistically functioning like 75 grand did just a few years ago. You are bleeding out.
And then the technology kicks in.
Right. Now, introduce a technology that alters the core cost of production. When you drop the cost of production to near zero, profit margins explode.
But the employee doesn't see a dime of that.
Never. That margin expansion is never captured by the laborer. It is always captured by the equity owner.
The whole equation flips entirely when the cost of capital changes.
Wait, Ali. Cost of capital sounds technical. What does that actually mean for a normal person?
Simple. It just means the minimum return you need to justify an investment. Imagine it like the interest rate you'd have to pay if you borrowed money to start a business, your profits have to beat that rate, or you're losing money.
And right now, the cost of capital for deploying digital labor is effectively zero.
It's basically free. So let's compare Setup A with Setup B.
Let's do it.
Setup A is Steve, taxed at the highest marginal rates, losing ground to inflation, fiercely protecting a skill that costs $20 a month to replicate.
A terrible position to be in.
Yeah. Now look at Setup B, an independent operator running a micro agency. Let's look at another fictional example, a 26-year-old named Rahul.
What's Rahul doing?
Rahul builds custom automations, lead gen workflows, and data pipelines for local businesses. Rahul only needs 20 clients paying him $2,000 a month.
That is nearly $500,000 in top-line revenue.
From just 20 local clients.
And because the actual fulfillment, the data processing, the writing, the coding, is largely handled by automated agents routing information through APIs, the overhead is microscopic.
He doesn't have an office full of analysts.
No, he's just paying for server costs and software subscriptions.
Exactly. So Rahul takes home roughly 400 grand, and more importantly, he controls the capital allocation.
He gets to write things off.
He writes off his server costs, his subscriptions, his home office. He pays a lower effective tax rate on his corporate revenue than Steve pays on his W-2 wage.
And private equity firms are already executing massive roll-ups based on this exact math.
They see the arbitrage.
They are buying bloated service companies, stripping out the expensive human labor, injecting workflow layers to maintain the output, and flipping them.
They are arbitraging the inefficiency of human employees.
It's ruthless, but it's happening every day.
Let me play devil's advocate for the listener here, though. Surely the government won't just let the white-collar middle class evaporate entirely, right?
You'd think so.
I mean, we are talking about tens of millions of people. Won't we see massive regulations step in, or at least a universal basic income to save the Steves of the world?
People are clinging to the hope of a political rescue, but listen, universal basic income will be a dependency trap.
A trap.
Yes, when the wage collapse hits the middle class, the political response will likely be a subsistence stipend. But it will never be a path to wealth or freedom.
It's just pacification.
It will be just enough money to keep you fed and compliant in a tiny apartment, while the cost of real assets, land, equity, businesses, skyrockets, completely out of your reach forever.
You're just locked out of the real economy.
You will simply be managing your own financial decline as a dependent of the state.
That is the grim reality of Path A. The obsolete worker who demands regulation and lives in constant anxiety.
We really need to talk about Path B.
The Augmented Operator.
This is the individual who views the technology not as a threat, but as the ultimate lever.
The ultimate multiplier.
The Augmented Operator is going to experience wealth creation at an unprecedented velocity. We are going to see solopreneurs pulling in $5 million a year in pure profit with 0 full-time employees.
It sounds insane, but the math checks out.
They will use specialized bots for outbound marketing, fulfillment, and client onboarding. They will sit at the center of the digital web, directing traffic and collecting capital.
Spider in the web.
The difference between Path A and Path B is entirely a choice. You have to actively step out of the victim mentality.
You can't just wait to be saved.
You have to fire yourself today from the role of the laborer and hire yourself as the manager of a digital workforce.
Okay, so how does someone actually do that? Practically speaking, what is the first step when they sit down at their laptop tomorrow morning?
It starts with a brutal, honest workflow audit. Look at every single task you execute.
Document everything.
If a task involves summarizing data, generating boilerplate text, reformatting information, or pulling metrics into a report, you must immediately automate it.
No excuses.
You find the right model, you write the precise prompt, and you outsource it. You clear your plate of the baseline friction.
Get rid of the busy work.
Then, you take that massive amount of reclaimed time and you pour it into the three things artificial intelligence cannot replicate.
Which are?
Deep relationship building, high-level strategic planning, and complex cross-domain problem solving.
Because look, machines are incredible at giving you answers, but the market only pays for the person who knows which questions actually matter.
A machine lacks visceral human experience.
Exactly. It lacks the ability to walk into a boardroom, read the emotional temperature of a nervous client, and pivot a million-dollar negotiation based on a subtle shift in body language.
That human context is your moat.
That is your moat.
Yeah.
But to protect that moat, you have to truly understand the underlying infrastructure.
You can't just wing it.
People fail because they just dabble. They play around with a chatbot for 10 minutes, get frustrated when a prompt fails, and give up.
They treat it like a toy.
They lack rigorous infrastructure and deep, structured knowledge.
This is why mastering both the complex theory and the practical application is non-negotiable right now. You cannot survive this massive economic transition by scrolling social media for tips.
It's not enough.
You need formal, high-level education platforms that specialize in rapid technological deployment. For the hard technical skills and actual integration courses, you need to be on Coursera.
They have the proper backing.
They have verified, university-backed curriculums that will take you from a complete novice to a high-level orchestrator. And for the critical mindset shifts and career strategy, you need to be consuming high-level audio on Audible.
Rewire your thinking.
Listen to the top strategists and capital allocators while you commute or work out. Immerse yourself in the mindset of the Augmented Operator. We've put the official verified links in the pinned comment below. Don't go searching randomly and get scammed. Use the ones we've checked.
The window for this transition is closing rapidly. Every single day you wait, these models get exponentially smarter, and the baseline value of your unaugmented labor drops further towards zero.
You have the tools.
You understand the brutal math of the new economy. You are either the person who owns the system driving the efficiency, or you are the friction that gets optimized away. Don't let the future leave you behind. Start earning.